life, and he was in The Irishman.
He was in The Irishman, and just to set the stage for the book to life, he's currently in. I guess. Are you there, Larry?
I am here, yes.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being on the 99% Radio Network. I was just fixing to say you are the author of The Life, and it's going to be used as, but why don't we just jump right in and tell us first about your book, and then who you're, I guess, working with on a project to bring it to life.
Well, first, guys, I want you to know I was watching the opening, and I want to thank you all for your service. Very important. The things you guys are doing are phenomenal. My dad was a fireman, so I have the same feelings you guys do. And you were very kind about your words about us ex-mob guys. There's a lot of truth to it. We definitely sided with the local police. We, helped them when we could. And we were treated with respect from them. You did mention we feel a little differently about the FBI. Let's just leave it at that's true also. And
we all feel the same way, Larry. I'll tell you, even as law guys, we feel different about the FBI as well.
Yeah, and most of the organized crime task force cops that I grew up with feel the same way. And that happens to be a great feed-in. I'm sorry?
Do you have your camera on, Larry? Oh,
I do. All I see right now is only me up in the corner. Is there?
Yeah, we're trying to get you on. Hold on one second. Yeah, you keep going. Keep going. We're just trying to get you on the show.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, it was those organized crime task force police that were on my case that when they retired, they started working for Robert De Niro, as a personal security team. My tech is trying to help me get on. I apologize.
We can hear the feedback there.
Okay. Is there anything I can do to get on to help?
Well, we can see you on our main screen. We just can't get you onto our video feed for Facebook. We're trying to do that now. We don't know what that.
Okay.
But
you started out. Your dad's a fireman, normal normal upbringing, and you're about 18 years old, and you're working at a grocery store, if I recall correctly. And you want to kind of set the stage for what eventually led to you writing your book, and I'll let you take that.
Well, yeah, that's how I'll more or less start it with a little bit, and then go in reverse. I'll start where I got to write the book, and then I'll head back to the road that got me to that point.
All right.
So while I was away, I started writing the book. I mean, I had 10 years. I had nothing else to do. I was told that my story was incredible. So I did. I started writing the book. When I came home, I completed it. I had an editor come in and help me out. I published it myself. And I got an incredible response from it. It's humbling that everybody that reads it has nothing but good things to say. So these officers, these cops that retired from the task force were working for Robert De Niro as a security. And when he started working on The Irishman, he asked them if they knew somebody from the old life that would be helpful as a consultant. And it's funny, there were 5 or 6 of the cops, and they all said, Larry. Larry's the guy you want. And it's funny, there's a chuckle there, but it's funny because it is a double-edged point. I mean, the reason is because I lived through a war. I lived through a lot of hits. I had a vicious, Grim Reaper was my boss. So it was an honor to be selected, but for those reasons aren't as honorable. So it's like a double entendre, I guess you could say.
Well, I got to say, Larry, I got to tell you, I did some film work, and when I was a cop, they brought in cops to make it, when I did Law and Order, when I did The Sopranos, they bring in cops for the realism, and that's what makes those shows successful. Bringing you on as a consultant brings the realism and the success to the show, because you bring anybody else on who's just watched movies or read books, it doesn't bring the realism to the show, and you can see that in the success of The Irishman. being the consultant on that show, on that movie, it was a huge success.
Yeah, and it's funny too because there were several things technical things that I told De Niro to do, he did, and they showed up in the movie. So yeah, I agree with you 100% about that.
Yeah, that definitely brings and if you think about it, a lot of the mafia-based movies, going back to The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, all these movies, their success. I mean, you've never heard really of a failed mafia movie, really. If you can think of one, let me know, because you really can't think of a failed one.
So the first question that comes to my mind then, do mob guys, Larry, go to mob movies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And over the years, a real funny thing is, you don't know if it was life imitating art or art imitating life, because so many of the guys in reality were using lines from The Godfather or using lines from Goodfellas. Even while I was away, in prison, my boss, one of the guys we were fighting for, used a line telling me when I says, I don't want to go to this guy's party. We were against him during the war. He tells me, we want to keep our friends close, but keep our enemies closer. Line right out of The Godfather. I almost bust out with his face, which would have been very respectful, but that's how I felt about it because, it's from the movies. So anyway, he thought the book was terrific, De Niro. He brought me to meet Marty Scorsese. Then he brought me to meet Nick Pileggi at their houses. And at the end of the day, Nick Pileggi now is signed the contract to write a screenplay based on the life.
Wow.
And two of the cops that were on my case, also one of them, Tommy Days, he spearheaded the investigation against the mob cops. So he has Terrence Winter, who is one of the hottest mob writers of nowadays, right now. Nick is a little, older. He's been around a long time, Nick Pileggi, but Terrence is every bit as good right now. So the team is incredible. Sammy the Bull is going to be a consultant on both of them, along with doing his podcast. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. But to shift back in time a little bit and tell you how I got into the life, I was working in a supermarket. And one of my jobs was to deliver groceries to houses. And I was also in school. I was a senior in high school, getting ready for college. And I wound up going to John Jay for about a year. But during one of my jobs of delivering, I meet this woman who, I'm going to call her an older woman. She was only 32, but, I was 17 at the time.
That's old to 17.
Yeah. Right, but I'm saying, look how things change. I mean, I was 32-year-old, right? But, so anyway, I have wind up getting very close with her. She's very kind to me. We start a little mutual seduction, and ultimately we have an affair. And this affair goes on for almost 10 years.
Wow.
But early on, I didn't know who her husband was. I really didn't care. I didn't want to meet him. She told me he traveled a lot. He was never home. So it enabled me to have this life with her. But as time went on, I started knowing more and more about him. And now I was getting paranoid.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah, this guy is a big shot in the mob family, still not knowing really how big. And it's ultimately, I'm going to get killed for this. So she insists it can't happen. He would never do that. Long story short, she tells him about us.
Oh.
I know. And she insists that I meet him. So I'm jumping fast ahead. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened before this meeting. But ultimately, I agreed with her. I agreed to the meeting, even though I really never thought it was a good idea. And he at the meeting, he decides he's going to put me in charge. And they already had this planned out of one of his companies, a legitimate company. Because I had been on the fire department test, but the test was thrown out for reasons. They had to redo it because of minorities and women. They said it was too difficult. One of those things. So it was going to take 4 more years for another test. So in those 4 years, I turned my whole life in a different direction. So I meet him, and now more than ever, it was the first night I see him coming out of the car, walking to the door. I'm in the house with the wife. He has dark sunglasses on. It's nighttime. He's got all the jewelry, and he swaggers to the car, to the house, with a real macho walk. Comes in, we shake hands, we go to dinner, and that's when he puts me in charge of the company.
Right,
so now,
just real quick, Larry, just because that moment right there is epic, right there. When you see him get out of the car and walk towards the house, that right there is such a moment. That what went through your head at that moment when you saw him come out and that swagger, the whole bit?
Okay. I'll tell you exactly what went through my head. If you look in the dictionary under the word mobster, you would see his face.
Oh.
If you want to know what a mobster looks like, especially in that era, you just look at Greg Scarpa. I mean, he dressed it, he walked it, he talked it, and he lived it. He was the real deal all the way. And I learned that in the upcoming years more than ever. So that's a great question.
Was there fear? Was there excitement? Well, I mean, you must have had so much emotion going through your body watching this guy come up.
Okay. It was total apprehension. It was, if any of you played ball, like I'm pretty sure you all did, before a big game, the butterflies.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling. And the best part is, all along I thought his name was Charlie. That's what she told me. Charles Schiro was his name. And when he comes walking through the door and I stick my hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Larry," he says, "Greg, I'm Greg." So I was confused right there. I had to ask her when he went inside for 2 drinks, which I needed. She told me, "Oh, he just uses that name." So I'm saying, now I'm getting really confused. I'm 18 now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get this position, and now, because I'm friends with him, it's not just this person in the background, and he's doing things for me. I start feeling real guilty about what's going on. That's why ultimately she told him about us, which was the next big moment in my life. When we're driving to the club one day, and he tells me, "Larry, I know you're a mature young man, and I want to have this conversation with you." Just as he's talking to me about this, I know where he's going. And I always said to myself, I would never admit it. It would be like the movie Godfather.
Right.
He said, "Just admit it to me, and I'll let you go." And I said, I would never admit it. Anyway, it's just the 2 of us. We're going to the club. We pull in, we opened up every day, and then the other men would come in. And we walk to the back, and he's continuing. He sits down behind his desk, his big throne seat, and he says, comes out with the words, he says, I know about you and Linda. Yeah. So hold on. There's a split second where I don't know what overtook me. And these are the exact words. I'll never forget them, and I said them several times. I says, "Greg, I have a lot of respect for you. And you're far from an idiot. But only an idiot wouldn't see what's going on." He busts out laughing. He gets up from behind the desk, walks me out, puts his arm around me. We went to the front of the club because now he had to have a very serious conversation with me. And he explains to me one of the rules. He says, "I'm okay with this. And I'll tell you why I know he's okay with it in a minute. And it can continue." He says, "If anybody outside of the 3 of us finds out, you and I will be killed. Because it's taboo. That's not allowed, obviously." But the reason later on I understood, Greg had 2 other wives. One in Vegas, and another, his first wife that had most of his kids with, in New Jersey. And we were in Brooklyn, and she was far out in Jersey, like 2.5 hours away. So he was spreading his. I would bring him to the airport sometimes. He'd go to Vegas for 2 days. Then he'd come back, he'd be in Jersey. So I had like 4 or 5 nights a week with Linda. And she was much younger than him. The third wife was the youngest. So I think, in hindsight, I was pretty much making his life easier.
Yeah.
So now I'll jump past, because now we have this 3-way relationship. Greg and I are getting closer than ever. He's bringing me to meet other bosses, captains. I've met Sammy with him. As a matter of fact, Sammy was going to help us, if he remembers this, when I was in that business that he set me up in, helped us get some stores on 18th Avenue. It's way back. He may or may not remember that. But I met him several times over the years. Very, very smart, articulate guy, Sammy. Once again, I think you'll enjoy talking to him. And meeting all these people, I started rising up. Then the war starts. And again, I'm jumping past a lot of things, the normalcy, the normal stuff of everyday life in the family. You know, the making money, all the different scams and all the businesses, skyrocketing, bookmaking. There was nothing Greg didn't do. We had fake tokens, you know, for the bridges, fake credit cards, you name it, we did it. You know, he had a thing that he would stick into payphones to open them up and get all the change out back in the day when there were payphones. And then he would ride up and down I-95 and just stop at all the phone booths. And, you know, it was just nothing he wouldn't do to earn.
Yeah, you got to pay up.
So it's amazing. So then the war starts, and, you know, that was really the downfall. During the war, I get made because I was involved in several hits. And, you know, there's a tradition that, you know, with intricate, serious private meetings, you have to be a good fellow to be there. But my partner and I were just part of, you know, a half a dozen hits and attempts and shootouts, and we got shot at. There was nobody in the family that was going to say we couldn't sit at the table. So our boss sent a message out to get those 2 guys recognized, and that's when we got straightened out. Lackluster ceremony, not like you see in the movies or you've heard about. It's been so exposed, you know. But it still was something that meant something to me at the time.
Hey, Larry, I wanted to ask you real quick. Did you grow up in the same neighborhood where Scarpa lived and operated?
He actually lived closer to where I grew up. I could take my bike, which I did when I was 17, to his house when he wasn't there when I was a kid. And it was probably, you know, 3 miles right down. And there's a bicycle path that goes right down Ocean Parkway. But the club was a little further away. The club was Dyker Heights. That was probably another 3 or 4 miles. But yeah, basically, yes, the same neighborhoods.
So okay. I wanted to ask you, because I was watching a show here a couple of weeks ago on National Geographic, and it was the story of the American Mafia, and one of the segments was about him. And when you were describing your first sighting of him as he was coming up the sidewalk, one of the guys that they interviewed for this National Geographic show, who was identified as a made guy, a part of the Colombo family, but he was all blacked out. They didn't show his face, and they kind of jacked his voice up. But he said when Gregory Scarpa would walk down the sidewalk in his neighborhood, everyone knew who he was, and he said people would walk to the other side of the street because he was that feared and that respected. Nobody wanted to do something inadvertently to piss him off. So I wanted to ask you: did your heart jump up into your throat when you first saw him, or did you know when you saw him? Did you know who he was by sight, or did he have to be identified to you?
I didn't know of him. I was, like I said, I grew up in a normal family, just nothing. I had an uncle that was in the Colombo family, but I never really understood it. We were kept away from it. But little by little, I started seeing who he was, and what you said is true, especially if they owe him money. They're going to walk on the other side of the street, you know. But he was also good for the neighborhood. You know, you touched on that before. We had no trouble. You know, the people could walk that neighborhood. There was a robbery at one of the churches where the crown jewels were taken, and the police couldn't find them. And Detective Sullivan was his name, rest in peace. I knew his kids real well. He came to the club and asked Greg for help. Within 2 days, the crown jewels were returned to the church. So with all, there was also respect and admiration, although there was a fear. But basically, the people that feared him were other families doing business with him, customers in the street that we dealt with. They feared him because you read a lot about guys that chopped up bodies and things like that. We always thought that was more serial killing and disgusting, but Greg would walk up to you on a crowded street in the middle of the afternoon if you were targeted, and he'd shoot you, and he'd walk back to his car and drive away. Stuff you see in movies. Yeah. Unfortunately, the only thing that tainted him, and it tainted him big time, is while I was in prison, it comes out that he was a top echelon informer for 30 years. So, that takes a little bit of that bravado away.
30 years?
Yes, for 30 years. Ooh. And it goes all the way back to an event in the civil rights era where there was problems, where he helped the FBI find some bodies. So,
just when you talk about the neighborhood back then and how the police really didn't have to really even lift a finger in some of those neighborhoods because they knew there would be no crime. You look at Howard Beach, Howard Beach, Queens, probably the most protected area in Brooklyn, or right out of Brooklyn. Never had a problem there.
No, it's true. Sammy's area, 18th Avenue. Yeah. Sammy was in Howard Beach a lot with John, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, those neighborhoods were well kept.
Yep. And, and there was respect, and it was the neighborhood. It was almost like an HOA, brother. It was, you knew you could sleep with your doors open, your windows open. No one was touching your house. No one was touching your car. Nobody was doing nothing. Mm-hmm.
Well, I do a lot of speaking engagements and book signings and things like that. And I'll hear 99 out of 100 times, that they miss the old days. Real people.
Yeah.
When the mob guys were there and they knew they could turn to them for help. Maybe there's 1 out of 100 that thinks the neighborhoods are better. Even if I haven't met them yet, but I don't want to say it's 100%, but right. I've never heard anybody say anything different. So, yeah.
Yeah, the neighborhoods were pretty much crime-free, and,
you could talk, you could walk anywhere, you could come out of a nightclub late at night, girl, guy, it didn't matter. There was always a watching over each other.
Somebody looking out.
Yeah. I'll tell you, here's a quick story. And I was in my house on MUW, and I've been around now quite a few years. And I was in the backyard with my partner Jimmy, and all of a sudden I hear my dog barking, and my 90-year-old grandmother used to sit in the front of the house every day and just watch the neighborhood go by.
Yeah.
So we hear a ruckus out there, and I look and I see this disheveled guy, probably some junkie that wandered into our neighborhood, running down the street with my grandmother's purse. So the dog is so well trained, it doesn't leave the yard. It goes running after him, but once he gets out of the yard, the dog stops. So me and Jimmy go chasing. We catch the guy about a block and a half away. He doesn't have the purse anymore. But there's a cop driving by, local patrol guy, and they must have knew this guy. And anyway, I'm trying to find out where the purse is. I got the guy by the throat, and the cops come over, and they knew me, and I told them what just happened, and I says, he took the purse, I don't know where it is, blah, blah, blah. So the guy won't say where the purse is, he's denying it. Anyway, don't take this too bad, I don't think they meant it. The cops said, all right, we're going to take a ride and let you guys handle this. Because I guess nothing was going to happen if they took him in, they didn't have the purse. So they left. We cracked him around a little bit, told him not to come back here again, or the building across the street, you're going to go off the 6th floor. I said, so just stay out of here. He left. We walked back, and I'm thinking to myself, well, look, the dog was chasing him. So he had to throw it somewhere. He threw it in the next yard. So we found the purse. But that's how close, the law enforcement, the cops were with reality, with the real,
especially back then. Especially back then.
Yeah. Well, now you can't even talk about it. God forbid, a cop defends himself. Look, I don't know how far you want to get into this, but every day we got to read about a cop shooting somebody that's chasing him with a knife, or shooting a laser gun at him, or trying to run him over, and they turn the cop into the bad guy. Yeah. So no, that ain't. I don't go for that at all.
So how would it go back in the old days? We're all kind of pretty close in the same age, and so how would it be yourself? All right. How would it go if you were, you can just do a hypothetical, but hypothetically, if you're out driving around and you're packing, you maybe got a buddy with you and he's packing, and for whatever reason you get pulled over. Nowadays, so many of these stops, some of these knuckleheads are out there. They immediately become confrontational. There's absolutely zero level of cooperation. How would that interaction go if you guys are
You know what? It ties into something you guys opened up with. And there's a difference. We weren't a typical street thug, common mugging criminal. We were more into making money on higher levels. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know any mob guy from our club that carried a gun on a daily basis. I really don't. None of the guys in our crew had guns on them. We had them nearby if we needed them. Or if something was happening, we went and got our guns, but we didn't travel with them every day. So I don't even understand that, how, some people just happen to have guns under their seats all the time. But and if we did, we certainly are not going to pull it out and point it at the cop. We were always respectful when we got pulled over.
So did they toss you? I mean, once they knew, would they do?
No,
you guys didn't.
No. Like, if you don't mind me jumping in for a quick second, Larry, on that. Yeah, a normal young patrolman who doesn't know may do overextend that and maybe toss the car. But any veteran cop, any veteran law enforcement, they know. Yeah, and it's not the point of not doing your job; it's a point of respect. It's just if it's a broken taillight, I'm not pulling you out of the car. I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to put myself or them in that predicament. I'm not. It's
common sense.
Exactly.
It's common sense, and it's a mutual respect.
Well, the reason why I asked that question is because, if you're a good cop and you're assigned a beat, you know what goes on in your beat. You know who rolls around in your beat. And I know me and Mongo, many times we would see, now street, there's a big difference. I get there's a big difference, but street level gangbangers who tried to be organized, and they would work for, some of the prison gangs, that operate and run drugs and things like that. Man, we see them tooling down the neighborhood with a broken taillight, and
it's a whole different level.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And California is a different world too.
Right.
I mean, there was not the same respect. We came across those guys. It was a confrontation every time. Every chance we got, they went to jail.
And not only that, if you're a street cop, if you're walking patrol as a street cop, and especially, I don't know if Larry, was it the 6-0 or the 6-1 where you were?
Both of them.
If you were a cop back then, you know what? If it's raining out, guess what? You're getting a cup of coffee. If it's cold out, guess what? You're getting a place to stand in the doorway. You know what? Your gangbangers aren't doing that.
No.
The guys are doing that. The neighborhood guys are doing that.
Where I was going with that is if the beat cop that pulled them over knows, hey, these are two made guys, they're part of the mafia. Is he gonna show the respect and say, I'm gonna let it go, just a warning, or is he gonna say, you're on? I don't know if the laws in New York allow, but in California, you're on probation. We're gonna toss your car.
We're gonna get to that question right after we take this quick commercial break. Larry, we gotta take a quick commercial break. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Stay with us. Stay with us.
When you come back, bring up profiling.
Oh, okay, yeah, we got it. All right. This is the 99% Radio Network. We are on with Larry Mazza, the author of The Life, and consultant, and you also played on The Irishman. So we're going to hit a little bit of that once we get back from these messages. On the line via Skype, we have Larry Mazza, consultant for The Irishman, the movie, also an actor in there. Excuse me? Yep. And also author of the new book, The Life. Welcome back, Larry.
Thank you.
You know, we before we broke for commercial, we were talking about certain aspects law enforcement would take towards either your street gangbangers or your you know, some of your known mob affiliates within the community. When we talk about
I'm 26. Don't ask me that.
We got Sammy on here too?
I think we got Sammy on.
I think we got Sammy on. He's talking to somebody.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm on right now.
Yeah, hey Sammy, how you doing?
How you doing?
Pretty good, man. I appreciate you calling in.
My man.
How you doing, Larry? How you doing, you other guys?
Larry,
happy to be here.
Yo, Sammy, you're on with Sideshow 12 and Mongo. Thank you for joining us. We were just talking with Larry about, we were getting into the profiling aspect of law enforcement, and the certain respect aspects that law enforcement had for some of the made guys and even some of the wise guys out on the street, because we knew as law enforcement officers, you kept the communities and the neighborhoods pretty much safe of crime. So we believe it or not, kind of looked at some of the crews as an extension of law enforcement, because you knew nothing was happening on that block would not be taken care of,
Right.
That's probably the difference between what you did in New York and what we did in California, because we didn't have that same relationship or the same respect with the gangsters, because they were just outright thugs 24/7. They weren't looking to help anybody out besides themselves.
Well, and I'm sure Larry and Sammy can attest to this. You do have, just like in any other aspect of this game, is that you will have some wise guys that make it bad for the others. They're gonna run their mouth. They're gonna run their mouth. They're gonna cause more heartache for the other guys, just to try to get a bump up or just try to make a name for themselves. So you do have those. You do have, but 90% are not like that. They know when what to say, what to do, and the cops are the same way. They know what to say and what to do, not to disrespect each other, because it was a cat and mouse game, and there was a mutual respect on both sides.
So, Larry, before we go to Sammy, we did have a question.
I'd like to hear Sammy's take on that.
Yeah, well, listen, the neighborhood to us was our community, our people, our friends, our families, and they were protected.
Right.
I would always say I would hang out at Tally's on 18th Avenue. We would hang out. A beautiful woman would walk by. There was no hooting and howling. Nothing was said. Their husband knew they were beautiful, walk right by the club. Why are they telling them to walk by the club? Because they knew nothing would happen.
Right.
Nobody would bother them. And if somebody did bother them, we would stick our 2 cents in right away. We wouldn't let it happen. So we were part of the community. I'll give you another quick story. When I was a kid, we had a house in the middle of 2 other houses, and on both sides of it, there was Jewish people. And during Christmas, my father and my mother would put Hanukkah candles in the window. And I would ask, well, why are we doing that? We're not Jewish. And my father would say, our neighbors are Jewish. Respect to them. We show respect. Their holidays right near our holiday. So that's what it was about, even growing up.
Yep.
We respected the people in the neighborhood. That's just the way it was. That was our neighborhood. Now, we committed crimes, and like you said, there was maybe some thugs who did something wrong. Those people wouldn't last long in the Mafia.
Right.
They wouldn't accept things like that. So I guess I got the same take as that Larry has. This is our people.
Right.
So
And and that's what it came down to. Sammy, I don't know if you heard before, like Howard Beach. Howard Beach was probably the safest neighborhood in New York City. You could leave your doors open, your windows open, your car unlocked. You could, you knew in Howard Beach there was nothing going to happen to you. No crime was going to be taking place without some bad repercussions. I
think it was, in general, it was all over New York, especially Brooklyn. I don't think Howard Beach was the safest place. It was more of an outlying community that was going towards Long Island.
Yeah.
But I think, personally, not because I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, but Bensonhurst, Brooklyn was infested with street guys, gangsters, street guys. And I think that was more infested than any other area, and I think it became more protected. I mean, every corner, bar, a club, every place you went, there was a pack of guys hanging out, and I think that was more protected than anything. I mean, so I think, yeah.
So, Sammy, we have a question from one of our viewers, listeners over in the UK, and I guess it's actually for both of you. They were wanting to know if one or either of you ever worked with Michael Frances. I think I said it right.
I think it's Franchise.
Yeah, I never did. So I never did. He was ahead of me. He was gone moved on outside the family by the time I moved up a little bit. So, Sammy, I don't know about you.
I think Michael Franchise grew up in between me and you. I think he's about 6 years younger than me. I didn't know him well. His father was a heavyweight in the Colombo family, extremely respected. And but I didn't know the kid as well. Like I said, I was 6 years older than him. And Michael grew up, he seems to be a real sharp guy. I do know him, I know of him, he's a great business guy. But in the neighborhood, in the mob, people take different roles. Paul Castellano had 8 or 9 captains. I was an acting captain. We were sitting in his house at a table. And he said one day, he said, in our life, there's 2 kinds of people. Racketeers that are good in business, and unions, and then there's gangsters. They're straight up tough guys. They kill, they do all different things. And then he said, it's very rare where someone is both a gangster and a racketeer. He said, we're fortunate. We have one or more in our family. And he pointed across the table there, Sammy the Bull, he's one. He's a thug and a racketeer. He's a gangster and a racketeer. My chest came out about 3-4 inches, and I was happy to brag about that statement. It was a good statement. So there are different forms of guys in the street. I know Larry came from an area where his boss and his crew, they were tough guys, no question about it. Good guys. And it's not that they didn't know unions and business, they did, but they were noted, especially his boss, for being tough guys. I developed that reputation as well. I was in the Colombo family when I first started, and then eventually I was traded. Like a football guy, I was traded to another team. I went to the Gambino family. And that's very, I guess Larry could say, that's very rarely ever done. You know, there's a whole story with it. And so I won't get into the whole story and tell everybody. And I'm going to do a podcast down the road. I'm working on a few things in life now. But so that's the story of the Mafia a little bit. They're a combination of different personalities.
Well, that's what I wanted to, pretext this. Sammy, you have a lot of good projects coming up, and you have a podcast or a radio show coming up, and I could not find the name of it for the life of me. What was the name, is it still in production?
Well, you go to SammyTheBull.com/links, and you can subscribe to a YouTube channel that I have now. You can follow my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can shop for merchandise. You could ask me any questions, similar to what I'm doing here right now with you guys. And, when Larry makes you an offer to come in and talk with him, you don't refuse that offer too often.
Well, listen, I would be a very bad friend if I didn't ask you this question. One of my buddies ran the same neighborhood as you. He walked around by you. He actually walked on the other side of the street as you because he was a little fearful of you. But he was known in the neighborhood, and he asked me to ask you if you remember Little Johnny Effin Walsh. You probably don't remember him.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, he remembers you. He goes, yeah, I'd see Sammy coming down the street. He goes, and he was only 9 years old at the time. He goes, I moved myself onto the other side of the block. He goes, but I had great respect for the man.
So
listen, my reputation precedes me, but I really wasn't. I didn't bother people. I was respectful to people. But same thing like when I was in prison. I'm not a big guy. I'm a little guy. But people knew that I was for real. I didn't brag. I didn't bullshit. I didn't push my weight around. But I wouldn't let nobody fuck with me. So that reputation went out. I was good at certain things that I did, obviously, as a hitman. Different bosses used me. Paul Castellano, they used me in the Colombo family where I first started with that. Paul Castellano used me. John Gotti used me as a talent in that area. And unfortunately, I really was good at it. It's not something I'm proud of or I like, but I was good at it.
So I have a question.
Can I say something? I'm still here.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, somewhere in the 80s, there was nothing, there wasn't a business in Brooklyn that opened that Sammy didn't have a piece of. No matter what club you walked into, you could go into a clothing store, a grocery store. Oh, that's Sammy's place. I used to look at my partner, Jimmy, and say, where's this fucking guy own everything? It can't be. But it was true. All the way up the ladder. Remember, Sam, all the nightclubs and
absolutely
unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But now you were legendary. You were a heavyweight. Everything a mob guy should be, and everything a man should be. So I'm glad we're here together talking and moving forward.
So I have a question for both of you. That you, Sammy, you mentioned you mentioned that you were a captain, and everybody knows that you made it to underboss. Well, besides the obvious things like being able to earn money and other skills, how does that work in the corporate mafia, if you will, where, like, I know how I got promoted, as a cop, you test, you compete against other people, you do that.
Yeah, same thing.
I'm just curious
test.
I said, but beside the obvious earning and other skills that you might have, is there, how does that work? Did other captains sit around the table and say, okay, we're gonna promote Larry to lieutenant, or how does that work?
We're tested.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine, but is it like one person's decision, or is there multiple people, saying, no, I don't think he's ready, or is it basically?
Listen, the boss of the family always makes the decision, right, wrong, or indifferent. He's in total control. Now, the underboss is his right-hand man, and he has a lot of input with the boss. The Gonzaga family, his job really is when somebody steps out of line and he's a made guy, he represents that guy to the boss and the underboss and pleads the guy's case to beg for forgiveness or whatever his case is. He's like a lawyer. He's the Gonzaga family. Then there's captains, and each captain controls a group. Now, the mafia, especially the old foxes, have a way of watching you when you grow up. Like Larry Mazza. He's a kid. People watch him. The neighborhood, like I said, is infested. And it's how he acts when he's growing up, when he's arrested, when he's in jail. However he handles himself, that becomes his personality. That becomes his reputation. If he does the wrong thing, he's not going to succeed. Now, money is important in the mafia if you're an earner, but it's not the most important thing. And it's not a matter of killing, this guy's tougher or this guy's a bigger killer. It's what he is as a rounded person. Does he have compassion for the life? Does he love the life? Does he understand the life? This is something that's lasted 1,000 years. We don't want people in there who can destroy the life. Now, John was a good boss for a while, but literally, what he did, he ruined his reputation and he ruined the mafia. He ruined the mafia more than 10 people who cooperated put together because of the things he did. We're a brotherhood, we're a secret society, and we have to keep and maintain that position until you're out, like I am, or like Larry is, or then it's different. But while you're in, you have to adhere to the rules of Cosa Nostra, and that's where your decisions, the decisions you make, and things you do, that's what makes people become made members, first of all, and then maybe excel to a different position. There's a lot of things that hurt the mafia. People put people in, their son, who didn't really belong. Mm-hmm. And these things hurt the mafia. Years ago, you had to be the old timers. You had to be Italian on both sides. Then people came to the country and they got married to Jewish women, Irish, and whatever. And they've changed the rule that you have to be Italian, at least on your father's side, because you carry his name, and we'll accept that. We don't care what your mother was, which is not a good rule because, let's face it, we all are a lot more like our mother than we think because they're there when we're sick, they give birth to us, they teach us, they're always around us. So you can't say that your mother doesn't have an influence on you, right. But the rules changed. But that's how you excel. You know, let me give you a quick little story. Paul Castellano had a bunch of captains in the house again. I was there again. And Paul Castellano at the head of the table said, when we're talking about cops, he said, you know who the real tough guys are? So everybody's looking at him. And he says, the cops. Because when they're called to a call, a domestic call, they don't ever know what they're running into. And they go in. And they risk their lives. These are the real tough guys. Now, that's not something that whole table wanted to hear. Nobody was too happy with that statement, I don't think. And matter of fact, when we were walking out, Roy DeMeo said, pretty loud, I think Paul heard him, well, next time he wants somebody killed, let him call the cops. And everybody started laughing. So, but, you know, the cops were respected. They have a job to do. As long as they're straight and honest and they're doing their job to protect the people, we're not mad at them. We're not them. We don't want to be them. They take different oaths than we take. But we don't disrespect them in any way, shape, or form. You know, I've been hired as a consultant on a show coming out, Mob Cops. It's a very, very powerful story. It's about these dirty cops who not only was giving us information, but were involved in murders, setting people up. Not only that, they actually killed some people.
Yeah. Let me tell you something about, Sam, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what you're preempting on this new show, I have a little connection to my ex-wife, the one person, I don't know if you want to reveal names yet or anything like that, but that one person who is now deceased was her first cousin. I was getting on a job back in the 90s, and my father-in-law would tell me, hey, go to this one. Like I said, I don't know if you want to bring out the name, but go to this one if you want to go to this place. Go to this one, you know, you get that hookup where you can go to a different precinct or whatever. But that was my ex-wife's first cousin.
No, I'm not going to reveal names.
Huh?
No, you can't reveal name.
No, I'm not going to
Toledo,
mention
right?
names.
I don't think he wants to mention.
Yeah,
the
I'm not
names.
going to mention any names. No, but I think he knows what I'm talking about.
So, hey, I got a question for both of you. I got one for each of you. It's a similar question. Sammy, I'll go to you first. One of our fans over in England, he said, what was the point that made Sammy decide he'd had enough of the life? Or are you ever really out, and no disrespect intended? And Larry, another viewer asked a similar question. They wanted to know, at what point did you decide that you had had enough? And how is it when you go back home? Which I guess is kind of the same thing that the guy in England asked of Sammy. Are you ever really out, or people in your neighborhood know you? Y'all want to address that? Do you mind?
If you'd like me to answer that first.
Yes, sir. Please.
When you take that oath, it's an oath, it's a blood oath for life. You're never out. You die with that. Now, you could cooperate, you could do whatever you want. You're a made member till the day you die. That's part of the oath. But you could be out in different ways. You could be thrown out, you could cooperate and be out. You're not accepted in their circle, but you die what you are. Like now, people call me the underboss. I'm not the underboss of the family anymore. And I have a tremendous respect for the Mafia. A lot of guys don't, but I do. I've been arrested all my life. I never walked away from the life. I stood up at murder trials, a number of them, and never cooperated. John betrayed me straight out. And that betrayal broke my heart. It actually broke me as a person, I think. It fucked me up so much, I walked away from the life. And no matter what I had to do, I had to get away from the life. I had enough of killing, betraying. I was done with it. And that made me walk away. Now, I thought for sure I would get killed or whatever would happen. And, but I had to stand my ground. There was a point in my life that I just had to stand my ground and walk away. I've had it with the life. Now, I don't know how other people, I know I don't put nobody down. Everybody's got a story of what happened, and a lot of them I understand because I've been betrayed in a horrible way by John. And that story will come out later. I'm not going to really get in depth with that story, but
Lost his audio a little bit.
Okay, you want me to answer?
Yeah, we lost his audio.
Oh,
Yep.
my audio?
Yeah, no, we got it back. We got it back.
I got it back.
Yeah, how about you, Larry?
All right. Well, he used some similar words to my feelings. I was fighting my case, a ton of money, waiting to possibly, hopefully get 17 or 18 or 20 years, which would have been a bargain. And while I'm going through all this, it comes out about my boss, Greg, that brought me into the life, like I said before, and groomed me and was making me the man that I was supposed to be in the life. It felt like my heart was pulled out of my chest when I heard that he was a cooperating witness for 30 years. And this is horrible to say, but if a close family member had died, that's exactly how I felt at that minute. Then to hear the future boss of the family tell me to my face that him and his father, and Sammy, you know who I'm talking about, knew about Greg for 20 years. It was the second time. Now my lungs were pulled out. I'm saying, if this is true, this was all one big backstabbing, betrayal. There's no loyal, nothing. So now you're faced with, and especially they're claiming I had to know about Greg. I didn't like that. I almost had a couple of beefs in the joint because of that. So ultimately, that made a decision for me. And then I got a little lucky. There was corruption on the case, and they were very interested in that because I really had nothing to give them, unfortunately. But there does come a moment where your heart's pulled out, and that happened to me and Sammy and many of us. Right. It doesn't make it right, Doesn't make it right because we are what we are.
Right.
But there is a time where...
Larry, let me jump in. It doesn't make it right, but it doesn't make it wrong. You have to be in the life. You have to be in somebody's shoes to feel that. When you give your heart and soul, everything you have, you're willing to go in the street and shoot it out or kill people or do whatever. And then the life itself and the people you trust the most betray you.
Yeah.
There's nothing left. Now, I happen to know his boss very, very well, and I can only imagine, because I know how loyal Larry was, and I can only imagine what he felt. But you have to be in the life. And then you got these closet people who want to sit at home and call people a rat, a this, a that, whatever. And these people, if you go to these people who are doing the talking, usually a tough guy, don't come out calling people names.
Right.
Now, if you really want to be a tough guy, you come and kill me. You don't call me a name sitting in your basement on a computer. That's the guy who will face 3 years and he'll flip, and guaranteed. And he has no idea of the life or the pain and the suffering. Like, there's a lot of pieces of work I did. I'm not proud of it. And I didn't enjoy it, ever. I mean, maybe I'm a different type of gangster. I will do what I have to do. If I was told at one point, walk in the police station and shoot the desk sergeant in front of all these cops, as crazy as this may sound, I would have probably done it, knowing I could never get out of that precinct. I'm going to die there.
Because as orders, you were given orders.
Yeah, and the loyalty, but you got to have that loyalty.
You're consumed by the loyalty.
You know, I'm consumed by the loyalty to do this. And yes, when the boss gives an order,
You do it.
you do it or you die.
You know,
And that's part of the oath.
I don't want to cut you off on that, Larry, but I mean, Sammy, but you know, it doesn't, it's not any different than the military. When you think about it, you know, the military gives you an order to do something, you know, a military officer is going to, you know, his loyalty to the country, he's going to do it. The same thing with what you just said, man. Your boss gives you an order. Guess what? You are going to fulfill that order at no matter what the cost is. And
Absolutely.
you know what? And if you're going to die doing it, then you know what? You're going to die with, believe it or not, you're going to die with honor because you followed the boss's order. And that was the life. Sammy, let me ask you a quick question.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
No, I wanted to make a point of something Sammy was talking about before, and I think it's a lost art in the life where you're talking about moving up, and that's why we do these things and show that loyalty. There was a time when I remember I could see different people, different guys who were being groomed for future positions. It doesn't seem to be that way anymore, that education, where the older guy, Greg taught me everything, how to talk, how to walk, how to meet somebody, who to kiss on the cheek, and don't even worry about, you know, he taught me every little thing. So you're being groomed for something.
Right.
And then during the war, I was going direct to our new consigliere, and he started grooming me for something, telling me, when Greg steps down, you'll be the only one to come to me. I know what he was leading me up to, but there's an education and a grooming that I don't see anymore. Do you agree, Sam?
Absolutely. It's the life has changed quite a bit. I mean, and in some cases, I actually give them some respect. Here's why. They gave an order, from what I understand, no more killing, which is a good thing. Because basically we're killing each other, number one. Number two, that, you know, these organized crime strike forces are loaded up with agents, 14, 15, 16 on each family. Now, when you're not killing, they dwindled it down to 3, 4 agents and got all those other agents and put them on gang violence or terrorists or whatever. So it was a smart move on their part. They do things in a different way now than we did. When we were growing up, it's like the Jesse James days. There were bodies all over the fucking place.
But you know, Sammy, you know what's funny? I don't know if you remember this. I was away with you for a little while. I know you remember that. We had that conversation about if we could ever change something, it would be stop the killing. You remember us talking about that?
Yes.
You do. But I'm glad you did. And we talked about the round table.
Yes, yes.
He's cool.
Listen, that's been my thought for a long time. Everybody talks about I've been involved in a lot of murders, and they talk about those murders. Nobody talks about the people I saved in this life. When we killed Tommy Barotti, right after we killed Tommy Barotti and Paul Castellano, I was in the meeting when we were talking about we thought we were going to be in a serious war and what we were going to do. And Joe Watts brought up, we could kill Joey Barotti, Tommy's brother, and take over all of Staten Island because the two Barotti brothers controlled Staten Island. I remember sitting there for a while, and I said, is this what we're going to do? We're going to start killing people for money now? I think that Joey Barotti should be saved. He understands the life. He understands Tommy wasn't the best guy, and he was in the car with Paul. So he had to go. So John said, well, Joey's a tough guy, dangerous guy. Who are we going to put him with? Now, I immediately became a full-blown captain then. I said, put him with me. Let me go talk to him. If he strikes out, he'll strike out at me first. Frankie DeCicco, who was one of my closest friends, said, I think Sammy's right. I'll go with Sammy. We called Joey Barotti to a diner. I had a gun under my jacket. We sat down with him. I said, Joey, how long do you know me? He said, a lot of years, Sammy, a lot of years. I said, I opened up my jacket to make the gun obvious. I said, if I wanted you dead, would you be dead? He said, absolutely, Sammy. I closed my jacket. I said, I'm not here for that. I'm here to save you. Your brother had 9 kids. You got 9 kids. You got to take care of these 18 kids. You'll be with me, and I'll treat you like a man. You have nothing. You have to understand the life. And he said, Sammy, I do. And Frankie said, that's exactly why I'm here. Because Sammy said he wanted to save your life. And Joey Barotti stayed close to me until he died. Even after I flipped, he was close to me. I can say it now. There's a lot of people who stayed close to me. I don't say who they were. I don't want to blow their cover. But he stayed until he died, so I can say it now. Very, very close to me.
Well, those are the stories that I never heard.
Now, those are stories that I never heard.
Right.
So you know how much fucking money you owe me now?
Hey, I'll pay up, Sammy. I'll pay up.
All right.
I do got to
Remember one more thing. Number 10 didn't pay up.
Oh, okay. I'm number 11. Hey, just real quick on, Larry told us how he got into the life. He was 17 years old. A lot of kids, coming up, 8, 9 years old, running numbers, get involved. What age were you when you were introduced to the life?
Well, when I was a kid, I had a lot of trouble in school. I was dyslexic, and I had trouble in school. A lot of trouble. It's a long story. Then I was on a gang, the Rampers. At 19 years old, I got drafted. We were talking about the military. I went into the military. I did 2 years during the Vietnam War. And at 21, I got out. I went right back into the Rampers. At 23 years old, I hooked up with the Mafia, the Colombo family. And I've been in it the rest of my life from, 50 years old, 52 years? So I did 22 years in prisons. I was in 3 Mafia wars and involved in 19 murders. So,
but when you say you're hooked up, it's not like you filled out a job application. How did you hook up? It was a meeting. You knew somebody. Was it just an introduction?
A friend of mine. A friend of mine, Tommy Spiro. He had an uncle named Shorty Spiro. He was with Carmine Persico. They were in the Gallo War, and he wanted to talk to me. He was an ex-fighter. I knew who he was. He was literally walking around the neighborhood. He was a legend in his own time. And I said, okay, I'll talk with him. And he sat down with me and he said, Sammy, you're a tough fucking kid. You're too tough. You're going to raise your hands to the wrong guy. You're going to get killed. You hook up with me, you'll be part of our family. You'll be protected, and you'll be with us, and you'll survive. I'll never backstab. I'll never lie to you. And anything I ask you to do, I've already done, and I might come with you and do it. And I know what that meant. That meant killing somebody.
But at that point already, you have, I mean, because they just don't introduce anybody. At that point, you've already earned your reputation, you've earned your trust, you were respected. Because,
yes.
You know, that, I mean, and that's what it is. You know, people don't understand. You know, you earn the respect and you're noticed. And like you said, it's a grooming process. It goes through from your parents to when you're a kid and they see you running numbers, they see you doing some certain things. They follow that. They follow that, and it's recognized.
They love you to come from a good family.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they look for.
So I have a question for y'all. So,
and then they see every time you've been in trouble. What did you do when you got arrested? You didn't talk. You took a beating. Back in those days, the cops would kick the shit out of you if they wanted you to talk. And I mean, kick the shit out of you. So they knew, you know, he stood up. He got a terrific beating. He wouldn't cooperate. You know, all of these little things. He was in a gang. He won't back up, or this or that. Whatever it may be, like Larry just said, they look at you, who your family is, who your mother, your father, who's your sisters, who's their boyfriends. Do you have cops in the family? Do you have, where do you come from? Where does your parents come from? What part of Italy? You know, they look at everything.
And how loyal you are. And how loyal you are.
How loyal you are, how honest you are. You a cheat, a phony, a liar. You know, they look at all of these factors. I have nobody in my family who's ever been in the Mafia. So to me, that was, you know, I didn't have anybody like John Gotti had 5 brothers.
Right.
It's a little easier to get into the life because you have a whole family behind you. I had nobody in the Mafia. So you're picked out of, you know, I always say it's like you go pick a pit bull, had a little litter, right? And you go look at that litter. And there's one puppy in there that just won't cry, you could hit him, kick him, pick him up by his ears. He's just a tough little dog. And he's loyal to he'll growl at you. So you pick that puppy. You want that little puppy. And that's what they do with you as a human being. So, I mean, it's a process. Yeah. And we used to call them the old foxes. They used to sit around, they knew everything. It was their job to know everything. And when they proposed you to become a made guy or to bring you in that circle, like Larry was and I was, and it's a great honor as a kid. Because I walked around with a tremendous respect. These were the bad guys, my father told me, but they're our bad guys. They protected my father on occasion when people were trying to shake him down. So being picked, but I always wanted to stay away because I was always afraid of being used. So this guy Shorty just hit me as, this is the real deal. This is some guy that I could like, that I could love, that I could trust, and I could be loyal to him. Right. And me, I'm a sucker for loyalty and honesty. I just hate those other qualities and growing up and being around people. So I hooked up with him, and I wound up doing my first piece of work, meaning my first murder, with the Colombo family. And I got into a serious beef with Shorty's brother. I went to his house to kill him. It's a long story. When they heard that, they went bananas on me. But people were there and saw the situation, and Carlo Gambino spoke with the heads of the Colombos. They wouldn't kill me because they thought I was 100% right. But I overstepped my bounds by going to somebody that much higher in a position than me, my boss's brother. So the decision was, let's let him live. The Gambinos will talk of him. We'll let them take him with no restrictions. We love you. We'll always be tight. But we can't keep you 2 guys together. You're going to kill him. We know it, Sammy. So if you make that one promise that you'll never kill him, you'll never harm him, we'll release you to the Gambinos and stay with your loyalty there and be our friend. I shook their hand, I kissed him on the cheek, and I left with Tato. That's the first day I ever met him. I knew his son growing up. I knew his father was a heavyweight, but that's the guy they put me with, Tato Arello. He was a very powerful captain, well-liked captain. And I sat with this guy. When he got back, he says, I want you by my club every fucking day. We put our reputation on the line for you. I want to know everything you do. I want to know when you steal, when you argue, when you're in a fight, when you get laid. I want to know every fucking thing you do. I'm going to know every pimple on your ass by the time I'm done. And I would sit with him and smooth for hours and hours and hours, and I got to learn the life in the Colombo family. Larry could tell you better than me, that it's rough and tumble. Kill this guy, beat this guy up, shoot this guy, do this, do that. The Gambinos, not that they can't kill you, but they were different. They were business-minded, unions, construction, different things. And Tato would smooth with me. Now, he was 30-something years older than me. If he was alive now, he'd be 105, 110. So when he would smooth with me, he would tell me about Lucky Luciano, Vito Genovese, Al Capone. I was fucking dumbfounded. I was a puppy.
Yeah.
The names he was telling me about. So I would go home, my friends would say, we're going to go out tonight. I said, no, not me. Why? Bro, this guy blew my fucking mind. I got to think about this, what things he was telling me. And I learned it, even just, when my dyslexic, I learned it like a sponge. I was like a sponge. I was so impressed with him. Same size, my father, same build, and I actually looked at him like my father. I actually loved the man.
So I got a question for either one of you that could answer this. In our community that we hang around with, the bikers and stuff, you're awarded a road name for a particular reason. Maybe it's the way you look, maybe it's the way you ride, maybe it's something funny that happens to you. The American Mafia is known for some great nicknames, and I know some of them, like, they called John Gotti the Teflon Don. I think the press gave him that one. But there's a lot of really cool,
Well, you got Lucky Luciano.
Yeah,
you got
Vinny
all
the
of
Chin and stuff.
Yeah.
So in the Mafia, how are nicknames, are the handles, or I don't know what you refer to them in the mob, but how are they given? Does the person get to pick them themselves, or is it something that the crew gives you? How are they awarded?
There's a lot of ways.
Tony, two times.
I'll give my quick 2 seconds, because I know Sammy will have a ball with this. Sometimes it's the opposite. Like, we had a guy around us that was dumb as a rock. So his nickname was Joe Brains. Then you have a guy, Jimmy the Blonde. He has black hair, but he's dating a girl that has blonde hair. Crazy. I was legitimate Larry for a while, because I wouldn't do all the same. I was more like you, Sam. I was looking to make big money, rackets. They were selling fake credit cards to make $50. I says, I got a bookmaking business. I'm making $10,000, $12,000 a week sometimes, and you want me to go throw it away on a free dinner. And my nickname became Legitimate Larry. So there's different ways. Louis Ha-Ha. How about that one? The guy laughs every time he kills somebody or hears about it. He just laughs. So his nickname became Louis Ha-Ha. Go ahead, Sam. I just thought
You know what I would say? Don't ask me and don't ask Larry. Go ask President Trump. He's got a fucking nickname for everybody. Sleepy Joe. I think this guy is a gangster.
Crazy.
He makes up nicknames. It just comes out. A lot of times guys will tell me a guy's name. Do you know this name? And I say no. They say, Sam, you know him good. A lot of times I didn't know the guy's whole real name. I knew him by his nickname.
Right.
Like Sammy Meatballs. The fuck do I know what his last name is? I just knew Sammy Meatballs.
You thought it was baptized Sammy Meatballs.
Yeah. To me, that's the way they are. So I don't know, but the Mafia has, I got a young woman working for me, young girl, very, very smart. She's doing a lot of my tech work and social media stuff. and she's a little tiny girl. She's 5 feet, maybe a little bit more than 5 feet. And I nicknamed her Peanuts. And she's got this name. It seems like everybody and their mother says, "Where's Peanuts? Where's Peanuts?" I think she's mad at me. She hates the name.
And now it's stuck.
So I don't know how to do it or why we do it. I don't know.
Well, I want to bring up another point, really, because while you guys, both of you guys are here, throughout the life you've learned, you've lived, and now you're both on consulting, on movie sets. You're acting. You're bringing your careers to a different level. Which, when I was speaking to Larry, that makes the movie industry so much more authentic when they have guys like you showing the realism. And that's why there's never really been a failed mafia movie out there or a gangster movie out there, because it's the realism. With your new upcoming ventures, you know, we can really look forward to seeing these and feeling the true to life experiences because of the behind the scenes consulting or the on screen consulting, is on screen acting as well. So we definitely look forward to this next upcoming project that you guys are doing, and to see it hit that box office and just break all records. Just like the Goodfellas did, and just like the Godfather did. You know, Casino, not so much, but
I actually like that.
Casino was a good movie, but you know, the Godfather and Goodfellas, you know, they went leaps and bounds about you know, the box office hits, and I'm sure your upcoming venture is going to be the same way, because you're taking on you know, the book, The Mafia Cops. You're taking on an aspect of life that is rarely portrayed out in the cinema.
These are likely to be TV series.
Okay.
Which is good too, because there's so much content you can't cram it in 2 hours. Sammy, I mean, we could go on all night with stories if you guys want to stay here till tomorrow.
Hey, as long as Sammy puts me on the project.
And we got the 2 great writers, Nick Pileggi and Terry Winters, so we're in in good shape with that. So.
Hey, Sammy.
I love truth to a story. Goodfellas had a lot of truth in that story. I know a lot of those people. There was a lot of truth to it. The Sopranos was very well done. I think it was great, but it was 85% Hollywood, 15% the truth. I want to do my life story eventually, but I want to do 85% truth and 10-15% Hollywood. I'll give you one thing.
Sammy, let me tell you a story real quick while you were on the Soprano thing. And I'm just going to tell you real quick. You know, I was on some wiretaps, and you know, every Monday morning, I get these 2 guys on the tap talking about the fucking Sopranos, on what they would do and what they wouldn't do.
Must have been Angelo.
No, it wasn't it. I know who he's talking about. It was 2 guys. That was Joey Tinier was one of the guys, right?
I'm not saying no names.
All right, I'm saying it. It was Joey Tinier and another guy. But let me tell you what Hollywood does sometimes. I was doing my book, and there was a girl in there. She, you know, when they put it down, she was drop dead gorgeous. She really wasn't drop dead gorgeous, but she was pretty. So I'm talking about her, and she was, you know, moved around a little bit. So they says, "Okay, Sammy, we're going to put in the part where you went to bed with her, you had sex with her." So I said, "I didn't. I know her. I know her. She's still alive. I didn't have sex with her. But Sammy, it would look great in a scene." I said, "Yeah, but it didn't happen." So I said, "Listen, here's the way I'll do it. Get in touch with her. Let her come down. Let me have sex with her once at least. And then you can do what you want."
Yeah.
all the producers, "No, we can't do that." Well, I can't bullshit and say I have sex with her.
Hey, Sammy, we got a question, another question from the UK. They want, and I guess you can answer this maybe if you want to. They want to know how you got your nickname, the Bull.
When I was a kid, you know, my parents were broke. They bought me a beautiful Schwinn. It was, you know, the premier bike you could buy. And my father says, Sammy, you know, we don't have a lot of money. You got to take care of it. Of course, that. I was so proud of this bike. I was about 10, maybe even 9, I don't know. And I go to the grocery store. When I come out, the bike is gone. I'm sick. I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't even know what to say. And my friends, a day or two later, they see the bike on the other corner of the fruit and vegetable store. They told me, the bike is over there, Sammy. So I ran down the block, and there was kids from the other corner, the other block, who took it. They were older than me. They were like a year or two older than me, 2 of them. And when you're a kid, 10, a 12-year-old, it's, you know, it's dominant. They're dominant. They didn't want to give me the bike back. And I started fighting like a bastard. I was crying, fighting, punching, bleeding. I'm fighting the 2 of them. These mob guys who hung out at the bar across the street, like in Goodfellas, ran across the street, one of them, and he grabs me. What's going on? They knew who my mother and father was, my sisters. So I told them, it's my bike. I'm not giving it back. So one of the other guys yells out, what's going on? He says, he's Jerry and Kay's son. This kid, Sammy. He's fighting for the bike. Look at him. He's like a little bull. That fucking name stuck and never went away. And as a kid, I hated it because my friends would make fun of it. You know, look, you got horns, you got this, but it stuck. And when I got older, when police were looking for me, where's Sammy the Bull? When I got arrested, my name comes in the paper, Sammy the Bull. A couple of times I would lie to women. I would tell them, you know why they call me the Bull? Which wasn't true. It was for that fight.
But at least you got in there.
Yeah. So that's how I got that name, and it stuck.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
That is great, man. So when are we looking forward towards this TV series that's coming out? Is it post-production? Is pre-production now? And Sammy, I gotta throw this out there too, because and this is truth. Larry told me to ask you, if you're looking for an ugly organized crime cop to play anybody, just give me a shout, and I'll fly out to you.
All right, but remember, this is a mob movie, and if me and Larry get you in, you got to give us a piece.
I'm in, man. I'm in. I'm in. You just. I'm loyal, brother. I'm loyal.
That's great. Now, you know, I tell you what, if it wasn't for, you know, the thing that's going on with COVID and everything, we'd be a lot further along, because we got a producer, Joe Paletto, that is really bullish on what we're doing. So we're lucky to have him, and I think we're looking at maybe 6 months, Sam.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess, you know, like you hit the nail on the head. With all these riots and these to coronavirus, and now with the election, I mean, it's hard to dictate. It just slows everything down.
Yeah.
And but Joe Paletto is a good man. I mean, and he moves things along. So we'll see.
Where are you guys going to be? Where are you guys going to be filming? New York? You're going to be filming in our.
We're not into the filming stages. We're into the talking with Terry Winters, and I'm looking forward to talking with him and dealing with him. The guy is a genius. I mean, you look at his background, he's a genius. And you know what I really like about him, from what I understand, that he wants truth. He don't want no bullshit. He wants truth. And then he'll do his writing. So I have a very, you know, on their end, they have 5 or 6 cops or something like that telling the story of all the facts. And they didn't have anybody who's on the mob side, a gangster, who knew all what they don't know. And that's the Bull. That's me. Who knows that?
And exactly.
And I'm looking forward to helping them with this project and working hard and putting it out. And just like Larry said, you want to watch a movie, and when you know there's a lot of truth to it, it just makes the movie so much better.
Right.
Hey, so let me just add to that. So these 2 writers, they'll start writing a treatment, then a pilot, some episodes. So that's the next step. I know Nick Pileggi is working on a pilot for my book, The Life, as we speak.
When is that?
So I've been. I'm sorry?
Is that in pre-production right now?
It's the same thing. It's the same deal as the Mob Cops. The Mob Cops is a little bit ahead. They'll probably come out first, I would think. But like I said, Sammy's going to be a consultant on both of them, so, you know, it's exciting all around.
Sounds like two awesome projects going out, and plus Sammy's podcast. You know, like I said, America's always intrigued by the stories, the realism. So I wish you both the best of luck. But I think 12's got another question for you.
Hey, Larry, you remember the conversation that we had about the shoes? There was a picture of the shoes of a very distinct pair of shoes.
I'm not sure. What am I missing?
Can I share the story about the shoes? Your shoes?
Go ahead. I'm not sure what we're talking about.
Okay,
but you can.
so Larry and I became friends on Facebook, and so I'm one of those guys that is interested in the genre. So I'm following his post, and a lot of them. It's fair to say he's definitely a Trump supporter, and he doesn't have much care for the current New York mayor, right?
Yeah.
Thinks he's basically nobody does. So
Really?
Larry and some of his friends, and it was on Facebook, it was out there. They were joking about the old days, and someone made a comment about like getting a 36 coupe, and John Dillinger used to drive,
right,
kind of thing. And someone, I don't know if it was a real picture or not, but I had seen a real picture of Larry somewhere in Florida or whatever, and he was dressed real snazzy, but he had on this particular pair of shoes.
That was at the Emmy Awards.
And it was like, was that where it was at? What was They were two-toned. I think they were brown and white. You know, they were like very
Black
distinct.
and white.
Black and white. It's been a while since I looked at, but they're very distinct, nice-looking shoes. And if I recall, he had his foot up on the bumper of a car and was taking a picture. It was a nice picture. Well, then fast forward to this conversation that him and some of his buddies are having, and they're talking about the old days and how, you would deal with problems in the old days and stuff. And so there was a picture, and again, I don't know if it was real or if someone made it up, but it was like Larry in the pinstripe suit and, and the hat and all that, And again, this conversation was going on about the old days, but I noticed in the picture the shoes. The shoes were the same shoes he had on in the other picture. So I sent him a message. I said, "Hey, just from a former trained observer, when you're talking about that, I said, remember how they got OJ? It was the Bruno Mollies. It was the shoes. Some guy noticed the damn shoes."
You're right, and he's been calling me sweet shoes. I'm like, that was a good picture. That was, I think the second one was me playing myself on Halloween or something like that. So I had the shoes on again.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's funny.
Well, guys, we can't thank you enough. We got a break for commercial, but we can't really thank you enough for spending some time with us and sharing the stories. And I wish you, like I said, I wish you both the best of luck with both projects. You got to go check out the book for Larry Mazza, The Life.
Can I give you the website?
Sure, yeah.
It's www.larrymazza-thelife.com.
www.larrymazza-thelife.com. We're going to put that website up and we're going to pin it. We'll also put that on our web pages as well. And Sammy, your podcast, what's the?
Yeah, let me give you the name of that. Go to sammythebull.com/links. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Shop for my merchandise. And you guys, if I don't see you in my fucking T-shirts, I'm really upset. And ask me any questions you'd like on my Instagram.
Awesome. And what is the podcast? When they come to your podcast, what are they expecting to hear from you, and what are they, all about the life? Correct.
When I get to the podcast part, I'm working on it. It's my entire life story from soup to nuts.
Nice.
In stages. Be season 1, episode 1 through 12. Season 2, season 3, and I believe that'll be a paid podcast type of situation. And then there's a lot of people breaking my chops to do an interview or actually a sit down with Michael Franchise, and I'm getting hundreds of calls. So I'm thinking about that as well, and I'm working on all of these things, even a documentary. So, and that's what takes.
Hey, I'm going to be on the podcast with you sometime, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, Larry's going to be on with me. Tommy Day is going to be on certain parts of it. So, these guys are my friends for a lot of years. And I love their honesty, their sincerity, and what they are. These guys are real men. And it takes balls sometimes to be a man, walk away and live a life. And I know they take care of their wives, their kids. These are men I'm proud to talk with, be side by side with any day of the week.
We feel the same way, Sam. Thank you.
Well, you guys can use the 99% Radio Network at any time. You can call in if you have something to promote, if you have something that you want us to get out there to the Texas area, the Dallas area, or actually anywhere in the UK or anywhere in the globe.
That's great.
We will be more than happy to promote and support you in your ventures.
I appreciate it, and I'm going to follow you. If you got a lot of hits because I'm talking, it's going to cost you a lot on the next
Hey, Sammy, our largest audience is actually
for free
in New York, and our second biggest audience over in Europe is in Italy, all around Rome and Naples and Sicily. We have lots of fans over there, especially in the Italian military. So.
You asked me a lot of questions about England. You asked me a couple of questions from people from England. And on my podcast, not my podcast, my Facebook, I got a ton of people from England coming on and asking me questions and sending me little messages and stuff like that. And I don't know why, but a lot of people from England seem to...
I may be able to answer that for you a little bit because, being from New York... I grew up, born and raised in New York. I know, you got the families out there. When I moved to Texas, they don't have that here. They don't know about it. They're intrigued by it, but they don't have that here. So it's probably the same thing in England and the UK. They read about it, they see it, they're intrigued by it, but they don't have it. And I'll tell you, Sammy, I know why, and I do this in my comedy routine. I'm going to share with you the reason there's no families here in Texas because, can you picture three guys in Armani suits trying to bury a body in the Texas soil? Take you 3 days.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed at what you told me because I thought it was just that I'm good looking and these women from Texas or the UK are sending me messages. And then, I don't know if you heard the Joe Rogan interview.
No.
I did a little bit on my Instagram page. Talk about Joe Rogan because he was talking about me, and I look at that little interview that I did. It's incredible, and hundreds of people now, matter of fact, thousands of people are calling me. Do something with Michael Franchise. Do something with Joe Rogan. So as soon as they're willing to come on my show. I don't think Joe Rogan wants to come on the show, but I'll come on his show. Who knows?
All right. It sounds like it's going to be a blast. I can't wait till you get that launched because you will have avid listeners out here. I know for one, I will be one. Supporting both of you on both your ventures.
You guys have been great. You guys have been great, and I appreciate the time you took and you put up with my bullshit. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, you guys be safe, stay well, stay blessed, and good luck.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all of you.
And Larry, I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Yes, sir. You got it. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Take care, guys. All right, man, that was Larry Mazza and Sammy the Bull Gravano. What a great conversation. They have great ventures coming up, man, both of them, with the book and the pilot for Larry's book and the pilot for the Mafia cops, the mob cops. Looking forward to seeing that.